Hey, how's it going, everyone? My name is Derek Afasi. I'm the owner of Afasi Financial Group and RetireSharp.com. Today's topic I want to discuss with you 401k withdrawals after the age of 60. Now, essentially, how an individual situation works is a person's working for a company, most likely a private institution, that is giving them different employee benefits, so such as their health insurance, disability insurance, ancillary products, and then also a benefits package that's known as a 401k, a type of retirement account that somebody could contribute into. So as an individual is working for this company, they are paying this individual a salary, and now this person can take a portion of those dollars and place it into this type of retirement account that's deemed the 401k. So the reason why somebody does this is because it kind of forces them to save. It says, okay, well, we're going to take this directly out of your paycheck, so it's as if it was never hitting your bank account. So you're not, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind type concept. So throughout the years, as this person's working, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, say he started at age 30, and now he's age 60, he would have been placing these small micro amounts into his 401k plan, depending upon how much he was placing in there, or he or she was placing in there, and it's going into this retirement account. So in theory, if this retirement account, this 401k account is placed into a fixed account, let's say that's only paying 1%, the amount of dollars that are being placed into that plan and this percentage rate being placed into this plan are going to grow this bucket year by year by year. It's going to grow it larger and larger and larger. Now, this percentage rate is very important because this is where individuals are trying to really put the pedal to the metal and take some risks. So that's why this percentage rate is linked to the mutual funds that the 401k plan provider basically provides for them. So they might say, okay, you have in between 5 to 20 different mutual fund options, target date funds, aggressive funds, conservative funds, etc. And what we're going to do is give you this platform based upon your risk tolerance on which funds to choose. So that if you're placing, let's say, $10,000 a year into a plan, and you're getting a percentage rate that has a positive rate of return because of this mutual fund performance, well, then that's going to be 10,000 is going into the bucket. And let's say if you had a 10% gain into it, then it's going to show as if $11,000 is in that bucket at the end of that day, at the end of the year. This percentage rate, when it's tied to mutual funds, can be positive and it can be negative. And this is just a kind of a refresher course of where you guys are right now. If you're looking at this video, most likely age 60, and you're saying, wow, okay, now I have to actually start planning up for retirement. I was saving these dollars each and every month, each and every year to my 401k account. My 401k account was receiving positive interest credits. But then also, anytime that these mutual funds are the market, because these mutual funds are typically tied to a mixture of stocks and bonds tied to the market, anytime the market went down, I saw a negative to my account portfolio. So in 2008, as a prime example, individuals might have walked into the year with $500,000 in their 401k accounts thinking, okay, great, I'm going to retire. The market has always been up. I've always received positive interest credits. And then they got hit with a negative 50%. And what that did was it taught individuals the realization of investing. And it said it's nothing more than a stock market casino. And when that market took the hit, they walked into the year with 500,000. It took the hit. They walked out of the year with 250 or 300,000, and they lost all of that value, regardless of how many years they've contributed into the account, because this dollar amount was negative, or should I say, the percentage amount was negative. So when somebody is gearing up for retirement, it's known as an accumulation phase. They're trying to accumulate their dollars into that plan. They're trying to place as many dollars aside, try to hope for as good of growth as possible to make sure that that bucket is going to be the largest amount possible, by the time they hit age 60. So whether this person's looking to retire at age 60 or, wait till age 62, match it up with, Social Security, 66, 67, 70, etc., there has to be a change in mindset from an accumulation stage if they're looking to pull this out for income to more of a preserve your account, eliminate those negatives, and distribution. Make sure that you're receiving an income from that 401k as well, or from those 401k monies as well after age 60. And the reason why I say after age 60 is because with 401k accounts, there's something known as a 59.5 rule and a 70.5 rule. The dollars that are placed into this 401k account are going in there something known as pre-tax. So if someone's placing $10,000 into a 401k account each year and they made $100,000 that year, well, their adjusted gross income at the end of the year is $90,000. This $10,000 was known as a tax deduction. So it's going into this contract $10,000 if they're doing this every single year, $10,000, $10,000, etc. The money that's growing in this account, when they're throwing it in there, that's adding a positive to that bucket. And then also anytime that there's an interest credit in there, that's also adding some additional positives to that bucket. This is growing tax deferred. So because it's qualified through the IRS, they're stating that this individual cannot touch his money before his or her money before age 59 and a half. So if they do touch that money, then they're going to get penalized off of, they're going to be fully taxed on those monies, and they're also going to have to pay a 10% penalty to the IRS because they pulled it out before age 59 and a half. So you have something known as a 59 and a half rule. So if you hit age 60 and you're looking to retire after age 60, you could pull these monies out because you never paid taxes on those monies. Any distribution you take are going to be fully taxable. That brings me to my next point of the 70 and a half rule. This is known as a required minimum distribution. Because you've received that tax deduction, because those monies are growing tax deferred, Uncle Sam, the IRS, they want their money. They want to start, collecting taxes off of those distributions. So what they say is for those individuals that just want to keep holding onto their accounts and never take a distribution, we're going to require you to start pulling out a distribution from this account, because now that's nice and large, they're able to tax you off of an actual required minimum percentage amount off of whatever your qualified assets are. So like let's say at age 70 and a half, it's all based upon the year that you were born, the amount of assets that you have on a qualified side, and they might say, okay, at age 70 and a half, we're requiring you to pull out $12,000 from your qualified retirement accounts to suffice the RMD for that year. At age 71 and a half, let's say now that is $16,000 or, $17,000, $20,000, whatever your situation is. Understand that the older and older you get, the increase, there's going to be a further increase on that required minimum distribution, because each time that you're taking a distribution, whether you use that or not, whether you use that for your living expenses or you're just throwing it into your checking account, your savings account, they want to make sure that they're receiving back those monies. So there's two different subsets of 401k withdrawals after age 60. Always be mindful of that 70 and a half rule. But then on top of it, right when you hit age 59 and a half, now you have options on how you could preserve. Remember that preservation and distribution phase. Preserve it properly, making sure that you're limiting those negatives and making sure that you're taking proper distributions, maximizing out, what that income is. And there's a really good Forbes article. It was written in 2011. What it did was it exposed a whole slew of mutual funds, or a whole slew of mutual fund and 401k related fees, where they're saying more drastically that those fees could range upwards in between, on average, 3 to 4% in a given year. So these are fees that individuals didn't even realize were happening within their accounts, that, basically this Forbes article has exposed. Now, I think that's a little bit more drastic of a measure. I think that, since that point in time, that the 401k companies, because they were basically caught with their pants down, have now reduced a lot of those, those different miscellaneous fees in there. But there's still going to be 401k related fees, mutual fund related expenses, and, you have these greedy financial advisors that are trying to give recommendations on those 401k plans or keep you in that accumulation mindset when you should be going more towards that preservation and distribution mindset. What do I mean by that? And a lot of financial planning is just a big game of leverage. So what we're trying to do is figure out that this 401k account is known as a qualified retirement account. Rather than go and when somebody retires, take their 401k and throw it into their checking account, well, now you took qualified monies, you threw that into non-qualified money, so therefore you have to pay full taxes on it. So there's ways on how you could leverage your existing 401k account after age 60 and splice them up into designated IRA contracts, because an individual retirement, a traditional individual retirement account, or IRA, is deemed a qualified account. So when you're doing a rollover, when you're taking a 401k and you're placing into an IRA, it's known as a rollover, where you could actually segment these IRAs into specifically designed processes or specifically designed accounts that correlate exactly to what your goals are. So what do I mean by that? The negative with keeping your dollars in a 401k is you have limited mutual funds. Yes, they might give you different options of stocks, bonds, mutual fund options, but you're going to be handcuffed to about that 5 to 15, 5 to 20 different mutual fund related options. So that's why right when you hit that age 60, you could go, and if you're looking for mainly a growth stage, you could go and roll that over into a traditional IRA that might have 300, 3,000 different options to choose from. So you just have more eggs in your basket. If you're looking at it as mainly an income phase, well, then you have to correlate it to what triggers confidence in retirement. And what I always say is there's three main things that every individual needs to figure out before they're retired, or if they're currently retired, and how to stay retired forever. And you have it as your number one is your income sources, your number two is your emergency funds, and then your number three is inflationary protection. So let's say this person's age 60 and they say, I want to retire at age 65. I want to correlate it to a Social Security need. I understand, after doing a budgeting analysis, I understand that exactly at age 65, my expenses are going to be $50,000 as a hypothetical example. At age 65, this individual is going to receive, let's just call it $30,000 of Social Security income, and then they also have $500,000 in savings in their 401k account. And then some other, checking and savings, but nothing. Basically, the 401k was the bulk of what their retirement savings were. In this sort of situation, if we're looking at the income goal, what do we have to figure out? We're saying, okay, we have a bucket of a qualified retirement account of $500,000. What's the smallest amount of dollars out of that $500,000 that we could produce a guaranteed income source of that $20,000? Because remember, the need is $50,000, Social Security income is $30,000. They're not receiving any pension income, so therefore we have a gap of $20,000. This person is currently age 60 and has a 5-year deferral to age 65. Well, you could suffice this type of requirement by leveraging something known as an IRA annuity with a lifetime income rider, so you're not losing control, but you're still able to receive guaranteed lifetime income at that age 65. Out of this specific type of contract, depending upon your area, depending upon your current age, depending upon how long your deferral is, male, female, those are different things that are going to, change which company may be most beneficial that is offering that specifically designed IRA annuity contract. So in this example, let's just say $500,000, we only need $200,000 to suffice that goal, to produce $20,000 in income with a 5-year deferral. So what that tells us is now we have $300,000 that's left over out of the $500,000 bucket in the 401k. $200,000 went into an IRA annuity. $300,000 is left over, which brings us to our next stage, which is the emergency. You want to make sure that you have in between 6 to 12 months of emergency funds set aside so that if you ever come into that oh my gosh moment, you could pull from those accounts. You want to have something extremely liquid. The problem with annuity contracts is they have restricted liquidity depending upon how long of a contract you have it set up for. But essentially with this stage, we're trying to set it up for lifetime income. So therefore, you're trying to stay within that contract for the rest of your life. And that's the reason why only placing the smallest dollars in there is necessary, because you're not trying to siphon monies from those accounts. You're trying to allow that contract to do exactly as it's designed, but we're making sure that that's established in a qualified IRA, a traditional IRA account, and that's what was the rollover was conducted. So out of this, if we understand 6 to 12 months in emergency funds, well then let's leave another $50,000. You could set that up into like an IRA money market account. Qualified to qualified, $50,000 to say, if I ever come into that oh my gosh moment, I could pull that $50,000 out. Tree comes, falls through my house, my car breaks down, whatever that case may be. Health, basically different health expenses. The older you get, obviously, the more frail you become. You want to make sure that you have a sufficient amount of emergency in there. And then the last stage is when we're looking at the inflationary protection. And this could be covered with two different ways. You could set this up on different IRA annuity laddering strategies where you're having increases in income every few years to correlate to what your inflationary expenses are. Or you could say, I want to grow this account on an accumulation stage better than what my current options are on a 401k stage. So what that says, we have $250,000 left over in that 401k. You roll that over into a specifically designed, actively managed IRA portfolio that's giving you good growth potential, a lot more options, rebalancing your portfolio, etc., and something that will beat out the pace of inflation, that you're not looking to pull money from those accounts and and basically risk outliving those monies. And this brings me to my very last point. What happens too often is an individual says, okay, I have my 401k account. I've already accumulated all those monies. I'm just going to go and roll this over after I sever employment or after I, deem that I want to retire. I'm just going to roll this all into a qualified IRA contract that is actively managed or is, set up in my different risk, mutual funds, ETFs, stocks, bonds, etc. And the problem with that is a reverse dollar cost averaging effect. Is with the 401k account, if you leave in the 401k and you try to take distributions from your 401k, you have 401k related fees. If you have the help of the assistance of a financial advisor, they're going to be charging you advisor fees. So that's a fee, that's a negative. This is a fee, that's a negative. You are susceptible to that downward market losses. saying just like 2008, the market went down, your account could have gone down 50%. Even if the market goes down in a 10% interval, which is a very likely scenario, that's another negative on top of those two sets of fees. Then if you try pulling income from those accounts, that's a further negative. And then you have that inflationary risk, the longevity risk, all of these different things that are negating what will be the growth potential on that type of account. So when you're actually siphoning it out into specifically designed areas and specifically designed contracts, you have the income contract on the IRA that works really good for guaranteed lifetime income to suffice your goal. You have the emergency fund, which is not going to give you good return, but you have full liquid access on that. It's going to have very minimal fees, if any fees at all, because it's just, you basically just have that in there as just a type of emergency type account that you could just pull from. And then you have that growth stage that is going to protect you against that inflation, and making sure that you're trying to really put the pedal to the metal on the growth, and you could always pull from those monies later on. So I hope that makes sense. If you go and you roll it over all into one sort of growth stage, well, then you still have that reverse dollar cost averaging effect with different fees and negatives and downward market losses. If you throw it all towards that income stage, well, then you're going to have restricted liquidity. Yeah, you might have good income sources, which isn't a bad thing, but you're going to have restricted liquidity. And then if you throw it into the emergency funds, well, then you're not, there's nothing guaranteed. Basically, if you have 500,000 and you're trying to, siphon out, let's say 50 grand from this account every single year, well, after 10 years, you would have no more money left. So you basically run that risk of outliving those monies. So I hope that all of this makes sense, making sure that you're setting them up into specifically designed quadrants so that you have that peace of mind, you have that confidence in retirement. And that's where we come in, is we try to educate individuals on a daily basis, on a national basis. You can give us a call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week through our 1-800 number. It is 1-800-566-1002. And at any point in time, if you're gearing up for retirement, you're coming close to your age 60, you want to understand how to set up a proper withdrawal strategies from your 401k or your growth strategies, just give us a call. Basically, the way the process works is you'll talk to an assistant, and then you'll tell them their situation, and they'll patch you over to a specialist. The specialist is going to ask you a slew of questions. And there's many times that we're talking to individuals and we say, listen, there's nothing that you should do. You should just essentially stay put, don't make any changes, and you could get from point A to point B successfully. Now, on those other times that somebody does have gaps in their plans, they want to have that confidence, they want to have that security, that peace of mind, knowing, okay, this is why I'm making a specific transfer, a specific rollover. This is exactly what's going on with my monies, or what I can expect going forward. We're A+ rated on the Better Business Bureau. We've always had very good reviews. We've never had any complaints, as because of this methodical process. I want to thank you very much for watching this video. Please feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Retire Sharp, so you can have access to the most updated videos. Thanks so much, guys.